Tonight, is history doomed to repeat itself? While locals worried the city's abandoned schools will end up like the one on McRitchie Crescent. And as the Spencer Gulf marks the National Day of Mourning for the Queen, there's mixed emotions for our First Nations people.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Whyalla City Council will temporarily move its headquarters to the former Edward John Eyre High School building early next year. The move is part of growing interest in the site, while the city's other abandoned high schools will continue to sit dormant.
Will past schools be left to rot? The opening of the state government's Whyalla Secondary College saw the closure of 3 Whyalla high schools in 2021. With the formerly bustling buildings this year looking more like ghost towns. The member for Giles says plans are in the works to turn the former Edward John Eyre High School into a sports hub for the city, with the Whyalla Council also looking to relocate their headquarters to the same centralised location. But local residents are concerned for the remaining 2 school sites, with seemingly nothing in the pipeline for the large plots of land that hold huge historic value in the city.
The old Whyalla High building, that will be preserved. It's got a listing, but what is it that we can do with the rest of the site?
The Stewart High School site still has a fully operating primary school, but Mr Hughes says the remaining property can be better utilised.
I think it would be an ideal location for a one-stop shop for a whole range of non-government organisations and government organisations in a part of town that often needs some of those.
The Giles MP knowing all too well what can happen if sites are left abandoned. McRitchie Crescent Primary School was closed in 1997, and since then some vacant areas of the site have become overgrown and the target of vandals.
The eyesore that McRitchie Crescent is for that neighbourhood, we do not want a repetition of that.
The member for Giles says staff have been employed to ensure a similar fate does not befall the 3 recently closed school grounds.
We've employed contractors to look after those sites, to do the gardens around those sites, to address any vandalism issues around those sites, and so far they're looking pretty good.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
It's been 2 weeks since the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. Today is Australia's National Day of Mourning, giving people the chance to pay their respects. Townships across the region honouring Her Majesty by flying the flag at half-mast and remembering her visits down under.
It was the loss felt by billions around the world. Today was a day of mourning for Australians as we remember the Queen and all that she stood for. Members from the Port Lincoln History Group retelling Queen Elizabeth II's trip to the township, even if it was just a short one.
What surprised me, I did a snapshot of the itinerary, and the Queen was here for less than 2 hours in Port Lincoln. And on top of that, if you read the itinerary, she did a whole heap in a matter of 2 hours.
The Queen was only in her 20s, but had the entire Eyre Peninsula welcome her to the town. And although it was a quick visit, it was one locals will never forget.
It was literally schools from all over Eyre Peninsula. They had students come down and did a dance, and of course lots of people are relating to it. I was a gumnut, I was yellow, I was orange, I was whatever colour, the purples and all sorts.
The Queen was welcomed by the then Mayor and was taken to Centenary Oval, where thousands gathered to get a glimpse of Her Majesty. A large cohort of police also on in attendance.
We've got photographs of all the police. There was about 90-something police that come over, and they come over on the Minnipa or the Moonta, one of the two, and berth at the jetty and then walk down the jetty.
The Port Lincoln History Group encouraging others who may have photos or videos of the Queen to come forward so they can share the special day for generations to come.
Our work is to collect all of this photos and interesting stuff and keep it for future generations. Show it off now, but keep it for future generations.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meantime, for many Indigenous Australians, the passing of Queen Elizabeth has drawn mixed reactions due to the monarchy's past involvement in colonisation. While South Australians mark our official day of mourning for the death of the Queen, First Nations people are still feeling the trauma that the monarchy represents.
As the world bids farewell to Queen Elizabeth II, The mood among many Indigenous Australians is more divided, with a number of First Nations people seeing the late Queen and the monarchy as the representation of colonialism.
First Nations people were murdered on the very shores of this country, and nobody wants to talk about that. No one wants to acknowledge that, but they expect us to have 10 days of mourning.
Senator Lydia Thorpe infamously labelled the Queen a coloniser in the Senate earlier this year and says our system of head of state is ridiculous.
We've got to feel grief and loss that we've lost a crown, we've lost a coloniser, and then to be replaced by the same thing. Nothing changes for us. We're still the sickest people in our own country. We're still the poorest people in our own country.
Racism allegations are also rife within the AFL at the moment, with the Hawthorn Football Club at the forefront of shocking allegations targeting Indigenous players.
These are serious allegations. It's important that we treat them appropriately, whilst also ensuring the formal process provides support to those impacted and also natural justice to those people who are accused.
Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Broken Hill Stingrays Aquatic Club held a dinner at the Musicians Club last night to honour Brendan Cullen. The Lifeline ambassador swam the English Channel earlier this year and raised thousands of dollars for the charity in the process.
An intimate evening to honour one of their own. Stingrays holding the event to celebrate an amazing feat. Brendan Cullen touched by the effort that the organisers went to.
Overwhelmed, to be quite honest, and very thankful that they put on such an event. It's overwhelmed.
After 3 years of training, Cullen completed the 33-kilometre swim in July, taking 17 hours and a whole lot of determination. His coach, Mike Gregory, a big reason he crossed the finish line.
Well, he was the reason, he's one of the reasons why I got across there. Massive reason why I made it to the other side. Without his support, I probably wouldn't have made it.
One of the biggest surprises of the night was a gift from where the swimmer grew up, Mount Westwood, which is now a national park.
A friend, Anthony Hayward, went out there and carved a warrior club from out of a creek that both my brother and myself used to play in when we were kids.
His daughter Emma, proud of her father's feat. She travelled over along with her mother for support, sharing their emotions when he was called up to swim.
We travelled over a few days before the swim. We hung around in Dover and eventually got the call to swim, and it was a pretty incredible moment. You know, I was in what they called the comms room.
The Broken Hill community also got behind the swimmer, as $35,000 has been raised from the Channel crossing. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, with thousands of dollars up for grabs, the Outback Art Prize finalists are revealed in Broken Hill. And school students in Whyalla do their bit in creating a safe home for native birds. Welcome back. The Proheart Outback Art Prize is returning this year, with 31 finalists being named this week. A handful of locals are among those selected, and we'll be looking at walking away with a total prize pool of $23,000.
The Art Prize returns after being cancelled last year due to COVID. Broken Hill Art Gallery curators over the moon about the comeback, as 313 artists from across the nation entered, but not everyone could be a finalist.
With the generous donation of the Hart family, and particularly Rayleigh Hart, really excited. We've got 31 artists this year from across Australia.
Broken Hill and surrounds are represented amongst the finalists, with 6 artists in with a chance to take home the prestigious prize.
It's always great to have a representation of the kind of really diverse and strong contemporary art practice happening in Broken Hill.
There is plenty of great work amongst the finalists.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out on Dave Doyle, because we're working with him on another big project in partnership with West Darling Arts. So that's called Glam Fest, and it'll be happening in April next year in a laneway in Broken Hill.
The winners will be announced at a gala event at the gallery, with judging to be done by co-editors of Fine Print magazine, Raylene Forrester and Joanna Kiddo.
Yeah, on the 30th of September, we have our big gala event at 6 p.m, which alongside the Proheart Outback Art Prize will be opening 3 other exhibitions.
Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Whyalla City Council has ascended to new heights to ensure native birds have a safe place to call home. Created by students, a series of bird boxes now line the trees in Long Street.
Housing feathered friends in Whyalla. The City Council's Open Spaces tree crew lending a hand to some excited students from Long Street Primary School. With the right tools for the job, the crew helped hang bird boxes made by the students, securing them to the trees surrounding their school.
The City Council is working with Long Street Primary School here today. The classes have built some bird boxes and we're placing them in the trees for them, but while we're here we're also pruning the trees as well.
Look, from everything from base of cutting them and making sure they nailed them all together, these kids have constructed these bird boxes so that we could put them just outside Long Street and see if we might be able to get some nesting happening.
Staff say the exercise has taught students how diverse the flora and fauna is in their own backyard.
We've started to notice all these native birds that we've got coming into our area for such a nice, beautiful area that we have.
On the installation day, students were mesmerised not by the native birds but by the man ascending to amazing heights right in front of them. The cherry picker also allowing council workers to neaten up the foliage around power lines and remove unsafe branches.
The school approached us 2 weeks ago and asked if they could place the bird boxes, but it's a lot safer for us to do it as we've got the machinery.
With the help of the council, they've been on board straight away. We brought the bird boxes back from Arbury Park and they wanted to be a part of it and help us out. So yeah, we're lucky enough to have the cherry picker here today to be able to do a bit of trimming for the trees and then be able to put those bird boxes up.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Future lawyers visit Port Lincoln, offering free consultations to the community. And Spencer Golf footy fans counting down to Saturday's grand final clash. Welcome back. Today's public holiday saw the Eyre and Far North local health networks postpone all elective surgeries, with CEO Verity Patterson saying the patients affected were notified and their surgeries will be rescheduled as a matter of priority. The day off adds to the growing wait list for elective surgeries caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a different story over the border in Broken Hill, with State Health Minister Brad Hazzard encouraging all local health districts to retain as much of their planned elective surgery as possible today. The New South Wales State Government investing almost $1 billion to fast-track elective surgery. Adelaide University students studying law have made their way to Port Lincoln. It's part of a tour aiming to show students what it's like to practice law in the country and highlight the opportunities of living regionally.
A chance for up-and-coming lawyers to find out what it's like to work in regional communities. A group of students getting hands-on experience by working with practising lawyers and Aboriginal leaders.
We have been very fortunate. We received a very generous grant from the Law Foundation SA to be able to bring 15 students, 4 staff members to Port Pirie, Port Augusta, Port Lincoln in this September trip.
Students coming over with a key focus to help Indigenous communities.
So I'm really interested in a lot of, Aboriginal and Indigenous legal rights. So far we've learnt that there are a lot of limitations in regard to access for Aboriginal people to legal services.
Many regional townships suffering from lawyer shortages. However, these students recognising the need to fill these gaps.
There are social issues that are ongoing that feeds that need. I think it's hard to get people in the regions to fill those sorts of roles.
Despite the demand, local practitioner of more than 30 years, Robert Mukey, is hopeful that exposing students to the regions can entice them to make the move.
Trying to encourage them to, if they want to start practice, to do that in the country. They get a real broad experience of all the different legal matters and it's a great lifestyle.
Some students even operating a clinic at the courts, working with real clients and providing legal advice.
So we dealt with 3 clients and they were all sort of highlighting family law matters. I think the biggest thing was that they were so appreciative of us being able to provide free legal advice.
The tour, the first of its kind, and one that all students recommend to their peers for the future.
So I would definitely recommend this to, any students, even if they're not necessarily thinking about moving to a regional area.
Absolutely. I think this sort of trip is really important for students to be made aware of what's out there.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Anticipation is building among Sydney Swan supporters as their grand final clash with Geelong edges closer by the day. The Swannies are also delighted that a main stalwart will remain at the club for at least another year.
Sydney has well and truly recovered from being in the bottom 4 2 years ago to being on the cusp of grand final victory. Their momentum continues to build, with News buddy Franklin making his future clear, signing on for just a little bit longer.
Still got the passion, love the game. I've enjoyed every minute of. I've enjoyed every minute of this year. We've got such an exciting group here, and to go on another year is just a no-brainer for me.
Even the Pollies are starting to place their bets behind who they will back.
I'm going Sydney because I love Buddy.
Meanwhile, Premier Peter Malnakis is pushing for an entire round of footy to be played in South Australia next year, akin to the NRL's Magic Round.
My firm view that this has got to be in Adelaide, and we are going to put our best foot forward in competing for this prize.
Bring on the footy. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Thursday fishing tips for our Port Augusta viewers. And a mixed bag of forecasts coming our way. We'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Golf News this Thursday. Well, usually around this time, we'd be bringing you all the fishing recommendations from across the Spencer Gulf. But most of our experts took the day off, except for Port Augusta's Aaron Morgan.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, with the extra day off, people are taking advantage of the conditions today. There's still a few King George whiting down around Yatala Harbour. Crabs are starting to come on though. They're a little bit bigger and full of meat. No squid to be seen, but there's a few kingfish up around the old powerhouse. And that's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
What a legend you are, Aaron. Thanks so much for making time for us this week. It's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, how was the public holiday?
Good evening to you and our viewers, Maddie. Well, there wasn't much to complain about today. For the most part, it was partly cloudy to mostly sunny conditions, with most Spencer Gulf cities enjoying temperatures in the high teens to low 20s. Sunny in Port Augusta today, 22 degrees. Blue skies in Whyalla, 17 this afternoon. And Clare had its warmest day in a week, reaching 18 degrees this afternoon. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 26 degrees up in the opal capital of the world. Next warmest was Woodna, 23 degrees, 21 in Kadina. Port Pirie reached 20 degrees at exactly 3:04 this afternoon. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system over southern South Australia will weaken ahead of a weak cold front expected to move over the agricultural area tomorrow. Another high will move across the south later on Friday and Saturday morning before a trough and vigorous low pressure system moves across from the west on Sunday. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Variable winds about 10 knots becoming south to southwesterly, 15 to 20 knots early in the morning. Seas will be below 1 metre, increasing to 1.5 metres around midday, and south to southwesterly swell 1 to 2 metres. Possible showers and 16 degrees in Port Lincoln and Cleve tomorrow. A cloudy top of 19 on the way for Woodna, down to 6 degrees tonight. Partly cloudy in Whyalla on Friday, between 8 and 19 degrees. Partly cloudy and 22 in Port Augusta, down to 5 in Kadina tonight, 19 degrees. Port Pirie partly cloudy, set to reach a high of 20 degrees there. 16 degrees in Clare, partly cloudy conditions, and Broken Hill be partly cloudy and 22. Taking a look further through the week now, starting with the outlook for Saturday, and it's looking rather lovely at this stage. Blue skies across the majority of the Spencer Gulf. Sunny at 24 in Woodna and Port Augusta. Sunny top of 21 in Port Pirie, 18 degrees in Kadina and Adelaide. Moving on to Sunday's outlook now, and just like that, that, the rain is back. Possible showers forecast everywhere except for Broken Hill and Cooper Pedy. Showers developing in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Pirie, 25 degrees. Partly cloudy and 27 degrees over the border in Broken Hill. And finally, taking our first look at how Monday is looking. Cooler start to the working week. 17 degrees in Port Lincoln and Kadina. Showers and 18 in Woodner and Whyalla. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. I'll see you a little later with an update. It's back to you, Maddie.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.